Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa. ¿Cómo has estado? How you been, Valeria?
I've been good. How have you been? You know, we've been shooting a couple of episodes today.
Back to back. But people are going to see this later on in the year.
Yes.
But the 2026 is looking good for you.
Yes.
A lot of changes.
A lot of changes and a lot of exciting things happening. You know, I'm trying to do, as I always say, this workout challenge 75 hard with my friends. And then we
Bad
have
Bunny concert coming up. Aren't you excited?
No, I'm super excited. First time in Europe, so I'm very, very excited for that.
And especially having the opportunity to share this space, Empodérate, where we want to share inspiring stories about everyday leaders in our community. And I know we had postponed this shooting, but we're so thrilled that she is here today.
Yes, well, no further ado, we'll have Paulina Flores. How are you? The founder of She Thrives.
Hi, ladies. Hola, ¿cómo están? Buenas tardes.
Qué gusto. Muchísimas gracias. Welcome to our studio here at CPLC High School in downtown Phoenix. And I know you've been here, and we'll talk more about that. But before we get started, tell us about where you grew up. Where are you from?
Oh, so I am born and raised here in Phoenix native, kinda. So it gets a little interesting. My parents came over here con pasaporte. They flew here, they had me, and then they flew me right back at 3 days old.
Where?
To Mexico City.
Oh,
yeah.
Mexico.
So mi papá, he's from Mexico City, y mi mamá de Zacatecas. But I grew up half of my life in Mexico City porque at about the age of 3, they separated. So when they separated, my mom came back to the States. And then their vision of split custody was every break, every shipping us out to Mexico City. So we were like 4, 5, 6, and I would spend the summers, Christmas, spring break, all the breaks in Mexico City. Oh. And then we would fly back, me and my sister.
How was your transition here in Phoenix?
It was hard. It was hard because it's the whole ni de aquí ni de allá type of thing. I had a very deep accent. I spoke very fast. Because I was back and forth from Mexico, I could say I was a little confused on my identity and what I was, because I would come here to the States, be put in ESL, and then go to Mexico and be like, oh, you can't speak English. And then I would come here and it's like, you can't speak Spanish. And so I was like, okay, pues, ¿cómo le hago? You know, like, what do I do? Growing up in a family where your parents are, separated and you don't understand why they're separated. That was a little difficult, but I'm grateful because I think that kind of rooted me into who I am as a person. Because I learned very early on that things change and that I needed to be able to acoplarme, a ese cambio. My dad was always very well off. So it was very interesting because my mom was not in the U.S., but in Mexico, we had a very good life. So íbamos a Mexico with no suitcases, nothing. And we'd come back with 9, 10 suitcases. I remember me and my sister we were little, we used to try to carry 4 and we'd push them halfway and then we'd go back for the other 4 because we couldn't carry all of them together. And mom was like, well, you have to buy them all the stuff. So when we would go to my dad's in the summer, we would have to get a whole year's worth of clothes, underwear, bras, perfume, facial creams, everything. He would just buy everything. We were very much humbled that, we only had a single mom and we had to help. We had to get jobs at an early age. And then we would go to my dad and he's like, no, mis hijas no van a trabajar. What do you mean? And he would have, be upset over it. Like, I can't believe, your mom. But it was a different time. It was a different time. When I started struggling with my speech, my dad was like, yo te voy a ayudar, mija. So I remember around the age of like 7 or 8, he got the Reader's Digest in Spanish. And he's like, mija, you're going to read it out loud with the pencil in your mouth. Because he wanted me to speak clearly and to slow down. And it really did help my speech. It helped my very heavy accent because I started like reading it. And then it gave me a love for reading. And it's because I was always very much, if I wasn't reading that, it was reading the encyclopedia. And yeah, that kind of just, I think, shaped me into the education aspect that I love so much.
How that upbringing led you to what is traditionally a male-dominated industry like real estate? How did you venture into that?
And I stumbled into real estate. When I tell you I stumbled hard onto real estate. So I have a master's degree in education. I went to ASU. I'm a Sun Devil.
Yay, me too.
Yes. Rushed the sorority, Kitty Chi, Kappa Delta Chi. It's a Latina sorority on ASU. And I went to be a teacher, high school teacher. I left to go do high school. And I didn't research. I mean, being a first gen, my parents are immigrants. My dad was never even in the States. He always lived in Mexico. I didn't know that I should have researched what I was going to go to school for on how much I was going to make. So when I left ASU with $65,000 in debt, and here I am teaching, and my first year salary was $35,000 as a single mom with 2 kids. I had a bartend. I bartended Thursday through Sunday at Sky Lounge. I taught, and then I did private tutoring. And so it was hard working 3 jobs being a teacher. And so I quit the high school I was teaching at to do education, and it was recruiting. What I didn't know is it was sales. My job was to recruit students to do online learning. That's when online learning started taking off. Again, the salary was like $40,000. And then I became a manager there. So they had me be a manager, and I was making like $75,000 at the time. Then I get fired. And that was such a hard time in my life because I'm such a perfectionist. So to be fired, it was like almost like you're not worthy enough. Y yo lloraba, and I was like, oh, ¿qué voy a hacer? And I went and I got a job at ASU, recruiting for ASU. Also making about $40,000. At this time, I still had my 2 daughters. I had just met my husband. We were barely making it. And there was a girl who sat next to me, and she's like, why do you enroll so many students? She goes, Paulina, our job is only to enroll 35. So even though it was sales, it wasn't like commission based. We all got the same salary. So the girl sitting next to me is like, you should go apply at Quicken Loans. They'll pay you for sales. Like they'll pay you commission based. I applied at Quicken Loans. Now it's known as Rocket Mortgage. They trained me and they certified me to be a loan officer. And then COVID hit. And I was like, ay, no, pues, aquí I'm going to get fired again because of COVID. And they didn't fire me. Like I got a ring at the doorbell. UPS guy comes and they had computers, monitors, mouses. And I was like, ¿qué es esto? They trained me. They licensed me to be a loan officer. And then again, another opportunity came up. I met a guy who said, why are you doing so much work at Rocket? And he goes, for you to make $8,000, you got to sell like, 200 loans at Rocket? And I was like, yeah, how do you know that? He's like, I just had to sell one. And I was like, no, you don't. He goes, yeah, I do. I said, show me. He gets on a Zoom and he's like, I only had to close one deal and I make $8,000. I literally quit the next day. I quit the next day. And that same day, I had just interviewed to be a director of mortgage banking at Rocket. Nice, cushiony salary. I think it was $135 base plus commission. So it was $135,000 base plus whatever your loan officers that you taught would make commission bonus, right? And I remember talking to the girl because she was Latina, big red lipstick. And she's like, you're going to quit? She's like, you just got promoted. You haven't even started the job. And I said, yes, I'm going to quit. I said, I'm done here. I went home. I told my husband. My husband looked at me. He's like, ¿Qué? He walked out the door. I think he might have like screamed outside and was like, ¿Qué? And walked back in. And he's like, okay, what's the plan? And I said, well, we have a food truck. We had bought a food truck at the time. We're going to sell the food truck. I'm going to cash my 401k. I'm going to cash my stocks because I had stocks from Rocket. And I'm just going to be an independent loan officer. I'm going to be a mortgage broker. So we started doing the lending. And then I realized how difficult it was. Because nobody tells you, okay, you're going to make more money, but you have to go get your own leads. At Rocket, the phones were ringing off. Rocket has a massive marketing department. I was just getting the leads. Now I have to go out and find the leads. And I'm like, how do I do that? So I struggled. I was borrowing money to pay my mortgage. It was probably one of the hardest financial struggles of my life. I had a miscarriage during that time too, because I was struggling so hard. We filed for bankruptcy. It was such a terrible time in my life that if I go back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe I made it through. And then something just told me, like, get your real estate license. Like, it was just like a gut feeling. Because I would work with them, with realtors, and I'd be like, well, what if I'm better suited for that versus the lending aspect of it? Went to school, got my real estate license, completely changed my life. Like, my career completely took off. And I got to a point that I have never imagined in my life. I remember my first year in real estate, I sold 38 houses. And then I saw the tax bill. The IRS bill came in. I almost passed out. Yeah. I'm crying now. And I'm like, why didn't nobody tell me? Like, this is how much I have to pay in taxes. Like, there's a lien on my house for the amount that I owe now, to the IRS. And it goes back to, I'm a first generation everything. There is nobody to guide me and say, hey, You should run your taxes like this. Hey, you're making a lot of money. Let's S Corp you. Hey, you can put your children on payroll. Hey, you can open up this account and move money here and move money there. I didn't know that. So here I am like, okay, well, now I need to hire a different CPA. Now I need to get a financial advisor. Now I should get a coach or something. I was just like trying to find help because I had nobody to help me. I'm going to pay for a mentor. And I did, and it took off. And when it started taking off, I said, you know what? It's time for me to put the ladder back down. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I know what that's like. I've been through that. Now that I'm finally in a place financially where I can provide for me and my children and more, what can I do to give back to my community? And that's when I came up with She Thrives Foundation, which is almost as long as my real estate career. Because as soon as I started that and it started having a profit, I was like, okay, I need to do something. I need to give back. And so I started the foundation. CPLC actually, the Women's Business Center, helped me set up the 501c3. They helped me set up the 501c3. We set it up. I didn't know what I was doing. I started off with a board of 11. And that's actually the same board I have now. That's kind of stayed with me. And it's grown. And now the foundation's at a place where last year it donated $20,000 on its second year to our scholarship fund, to our emergency fund, to our Operation Santa. The whole point of the foundation is to have these events to raise money to give back to the community. And the 5-year goal is a shelter. So that is the plan that I'm hoping that I can fulfill.
Yeah. Oh, we heard about scholarships as well. That's part of the program that that you have executed through that She Thrives. How does that work?
So the scholarship is $5,000. So we have nominations online, social media. People nominate participants so they can nominate themselves, and the board votes. And we pick 2 or 3 depending on the event. And we give $5,000 for somebody who's already enrolled in a school, and we pay the school directly. So last year we did 2 of them. One of them we paid Glendale Community College. It was Latina who came from Mexico. She came on a visa because of domestic violence. She was a therapist in her home country, and she doesn't know the language. So she was trying to go to school, to GCC, to learn English so she can revalidate her credits and her credentials and become a therapist here in the U.S. And then the second recipient, domestic violence survivor as well, living with her relatives, was kind of a period of homelessness, and she kind of got back on her feet and signed up for a trade school over by Metro Center, and she's going to do medical coding.
That's amazing. It's amazing to see community coming together, but because not only with the monetary input, but also with the support system that you create for these individuals to feel seen. I remember going to one of the graduations from domestic violence survivors from our De Colores program to our Women Business Center. So they merged a program, and there was this other lady that rushed in. She was called in. I think it was one of the last ones to receive, and it was the very first certificate she ever gotten. And she was so proud to have her daughter seen her accomplish that much.
Yeah.
I'm curious, going back to your journey, was there a particular moment that you felt, you didn't mention COVID, that you felt that there wasn't at the time, you felt alone because there was no other people that may have the problems that you did? What got you through?
Oh, I feel like those moments are a lot. Growing up, I feel like those moments were very much a lot. You go through this grieving process of the person who you used to be dying, right? Because my whole entire life was go to school, get your education, go to university. And I did that. I did all the right things. I went to school, I got my degree, and here I was still struggling. And now I was going into a career that you don't need a degree for. And that was so hard for me to be like, okay, I'm going to go into real estate, and you really only need a high school diploma for that. So bearing that person of like, here I am with all my accomplishments in education, and now for what, right? And not knowing who to talk to about that. Because I couldn't tell my mom, hey, Mom, I feel bad because I'm doing a job that pays me more, but but I'm not using my degrees compared to her struggles. Like it would have been like, malagradecida, I came to this country and you're worried about that, you know? And I feel like that's been my whole entire life, that I can't talk to anybody because the people around me or my family members, like their struggles are so much harder. And I'm like, my struggles feel like so dumb. So that's why I'm like, okay, I built my own table. I built She Thrives. And I really have always put my head down and just read. I read a lot. Or I do motivational books, or I do motivational podcasts, or I research, because I am a researcher. My degree's in research. I'm a history teacher. I'm a historian, so I research everything. So when I don't know, I'm like researching. If ChatGPT would have came about like 10 years ago, I would have been like, this is the best thing ever. But I was the one looking through encyclopedias before the internet was a thing. Then I was like, see, here looking at Googles and articles and this and that, and how people have done things. For me, it's always like, if I need help and I don't have it in my circle, I look for it around and I research who I can pay to help me. And that has been, I think, what has made me the success that I have now, is because I'm okay with paying for knowledge.
And so what is maybe like a piece of advice that you'd want to tell somebody that's also first generation of everything, that's also kind of maybe in your shoes, that's kind of struggling? And I feel like now we live in like a time where like your degree, you know, you don't have to work with your degree. It could be goes both ways. It's great that like you don't have to work within that field, but also it's like, well, like, why did I go to school for this?
You can reinvent yourself every single day. Nobody is going to come to save you. Nobody's going to pay your bills. Nobody's going to fix your life. You can literally reinvent yourself every single day. If that career didn't work for you, move on. If you went to school for, I don't know, for beauty and it didn't work out, it's okay. Go find something else. If that doesn't work out, that's okay too. Go find something else. Or if you want to do multiple things, that's okay too. There's many women who are serial entrepreneurs. They have multiple streams of income.
What motivates you for community service?
My daughters. And it's because there'll be a day that I won't be here, right? And I want to leave something behind for them. I want them to grow up and be advocates, be community leaders. So for me, I always look at it and I say, if I can do something, I at least have 5 daughters that are worshipers, that are teachers, that are advocates, that will stand up, because they were never told, calladita te ves más bonita, ever.
Very, very inspiring, for sure. And so, you know, you have, your oldest is going to be 18, right? Or no, she just turned 18,
She's
right?
going to turn 18, yeah.
So what is that kind of like?
I think the hardest thing with my daughter is always trying to be sheltering her, because she went through so much with me. My oldest went through the struggles of breaking down on the highway, the struggles of her abusive father, the struggles of us not being enough, of like living with other people. I lived with so many people when I had her. We never had our own space. So now she's grown up, and I have made some mistakes where I have overcompensated that, right? So she doesn't know what it's like to struggle now. Like, she has my card and can go swipe it wherever. She doesn't even have to look at menu items. And my husband's like, you got to stop that. And I told her, I said, Mia, I said, I love you very much, Mia. I said, but you're going to have to do one or two things. You're going to have to get a real estate license and work with me, or you're going to have to marry somebody very wealthy to sustain this lifestyle that you have. But it's hard. Nobody teaches you how to be a mom. And no matter how much you try, I feel like I try so much with my girls, but I know that when they're older, they might throw in my face that I was never around, that I worked too much. And they'll always have something to complain, but I know that at least I tried my best, the best that I could, with what I had.
How is your relationship with your mom now?
Oh, my mom.
As you reflect back to those days when you were going back and forth between the two countries.
It's kind of like, it's a very, very difficult relationship, difficult and good. Good in the way that I'm like, damn, my mom was a chingona. Like, how did she do everything she did? Come to this country by herself, didn't know the language, still doesn't know the language, raised me, my sister, and my brother, and we're all very accomplished adults. Like, how did she do it, not even being able to like somebody understand her, the things that she went through, like such a respect for her, for what she accomplished. And then at the same time, the very much of the old school mentality. Like I went to Punta Cana on a girls trip with my friends. My mom came to my house like after I came home. ¿Cómo se te ocurrió dejar tu marido aquí? Like, you know, so it's like that respect and admiration with that old school, like, ¿Cómo dejaste aquí a Jorge with all these girls to take care of? I'm like, they're his children.
Yeah.
You know? and then I don't cook. I don't ever cook. I haven't cooked ever. I can't cook. I can't even do an egg. Okay. I burn it. I'm married to a chef. My husband, when I met him, is a chef, is a executive, like fine dining chef. So whatever I can potentially make is never going to be what he cooks. So I'm just like, that's not my place. My mom gets so upset because she'll come over. She's like, ¿Dónde está el comal? I don't know, Mom. Ask Jorge. ¿Cómo? What do you mean you don't know where the comal is at in your own house? I'm like, I don't know where he put it, Mom. And he's like, no, qué vergüenza. And I was like, so that's why I say it's kind of give or take, where it's like, I know she's proud of me. I'm proud of her deeply for everything that she has accomplished. But there's also that I'm not that old school, you know, stay at home mother that she might have wanted me to be, you know?
Yeah. You seem very confident throughout the different journeys that your life have gone through.
Yeah.
From the moment to take a plane all by yourself and with your sibling, and then through where you are today. How does domestic violence happen to somebody so confident and with the support system that you had?
So much therapy to unload that question. So I've been in therapy for years, and I asked myself that for many, many years. And here's why. When I met him, I was 19 years old, and I was working 2 jobs already. I was at Wells Fargo, and I was bartending, and I was living alone in my apartment. And I had been working since I was 14. I lied to this poor little Chinese guy, and I told him I was older, and he believed me somehow. And I was working at a Chinese restaurant since I was 14, right? And helping my mom. I would always give my mom $500 to $600 a month back then in the 90s. That was a lot, you know? And I was always working and working and working. And here comes a man who says, you don't have to work. I will take care of you. And then they started love bombing me, which I learned what that was recently. I didn't know what that was. After some therapy, the therapist is like, oh, that was love bombing. I'm like, is that what it's called? So he's like, I'm going to take care of you. And he started buying me Tiffany's and started buying all these like brands that I had never even, you know, knew even existed. He took me to Sedona on the Pink Jeep tours, took me on a helicopter ride, took me on a balloon ride. It was like he just completely just love bombed me. And then he's like, oh, let's move in together. And I was like, yes, let's move in together. Why not? And then right away, I got pregnant. He's like, let's have a baby together. I'm like, okay, yes, let's have a baby. Like I was like so in love. I was like, yes, I'll have a baby. And then something switched. Like after he already had me moved in and I was pregnant, then I started getting isolated from my family and being removed from my family. And then we started moving every year. We lived in Tempe, we lived in Levine, we lived in Surprise, we lived in Anthem. And then I disappeared off the earth completely. My sorority sisters actually filed a missing persons report. And then they start like psychoanalyzing you and like bringing stuff that you've shared with them about your past. Oh, do you want your daughters to be raped too? Do you want this? Do you want like just like mind games where you start believing? Like that man could have told me that the sky was purple and I would have believed it. And then they start stripping you of your identity where he's like, okay, don't wear this, don't wear that. Then the phone went. I couldn't have a phone. Then I couldn't listen to regular music. It was only Christian music. Then I couldn't watch certain TV shows because of the devil or like the devil's spirits. And then it started being very intertwined with you wouldn't have the life that you went through or the struggles that you went through had you been with somebody who protected you or had you had this Christian background and very much of a holy roller, because there's Christians and there's Christian holy rollers. We're talking about holy rollers who are like, everything is like, no, but God said no, but no. And it was like such a mind play on me. And I think I was so young and I desperately wanted a life jacket to save me from my situation. And I saw a life jacket in him. So I clinged on to him. And then by that time I had a daughter and he's like, no quieres que a ella le pasa lo mismo que tú, ¿verdad? Like, you don't want her to struggle through the same things. You don't want something to try to do this to her, do that to her. And it was always like threatening me over, what if this would happen to your daughter? Do you want her to live by that? Like, you knew what it was like having your parents separated. Do you want that for her? And I was like, no. And it was just like constant mind games. I think I would look back and I'm like, oh my God, how did that happen to me? But I think he knew. This is why, ladies, it's not good. Don't tell your partners everything about you, especially not the bad stuff. Because if you bump into a man like this one, they use it to kind of come back and say, we don't want your family in your life, like this and that. My mom wasn't at the delivery of neither one of my first daughters. She didn't meet my second daughter till she was like 3 or 4. Like, when I say my family was non-existent in my life, they were. I didn't have access to any of them, or Facebook or anything. No social media, nothing. It's like I disappeared from the face of the earth.
What was the last straw?
It was kind of a combination of things. My sister had found me. I don't know how she found me. And she left me a key to a security deposit box. My sister at the time worked at Wells Fargo, and she said, all she said to me was, in case you need this. And I was like, okay. And so then when I would go to the store to buy groceries, because I didn't have any cards or anything to my name, I would pull out money, like on cash out, like $10, $20, like something very little that wouldn't be noticeable. And I raised $5,000, which is why the scholarships are $5,000. I raised $5,000 in the security deposit box, and I was just saving it. And it took me a while to save that. One day he started yelling at me and he pushed me, and my daughter, who at the time was like 2 or 3, got in between us and put her little hands up. And she says, Daddy, stop. Don't hurt my mommy. And that's when I was like, I thought she was oblivious to it. I thought she didn't notice. I thought it was just something I was carrying. And that day I said, enough is enough. And I made a goal to raise money. And when I had the $5,000, I waited for him to go to work, and I stuck whatever I could in that 4-door Scion. And I left and I moved to Gilbert. And that's why I live in the East Valley, because I grew up in the West Valley, but I wanted to put enough distance so he couldn't just show up at my door whenever he wanted. So my whole family moved to Gilbert. My mom, my sister, everybody moved to Gilbert with me. We all moved in together. He would show up, and my mom and my sister and my cuñado and my dad would come out and be like, you have no business here. And I would just, stay inside. And I was terrified. For many years, I was terrified of him. But
I'm sorry. But look where you are today.
yeah.
Yeah, and what was it like to kind of create now, like She Thrives, and kind of hear stories of other women that kind of went through something similar?
Oh, my God, it's so hard. We just had an event with Ducati, Club Ducati, did an event for us to raise money. And it's funny because when I started She Thrives, everybody was like, why are you starting a domestic violence nonprofit? They didn't know. Nobody knew. Even my daughter was like, Mom, why are we doing this? And I was like, and then she saw one of the events, and I said the story, and we wrote a book. We have a book that we use for fundraising as well. We sell the book. It's like 13 survivor stories in the book. And she started realizing, and we had those conversations. And one day I started talking to her, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I always shielded you from this. I always told her dad was the best. It was always my fault that I left. He was always the hero forever, up until like a year ago. She was like, Mom, she's like, I know you're lying to me. And I'm like, why do you say that? And she's like, I saw my dad's mugshot when I was 9-year-old. And I was like, what are you talking about, baby? She's like, I saw his mugshot. I saw when he got arrested for domestic violence. I know he went to jail. I know. And I was like, what? And mind you, she's 16 now. This was when she was 9. So this whole entire time, I'm like playing this facade, right? And she knew the whole entire time. And now with She Thrives, I started speaking about my story more. And every time I speak, I get like this, I cry. I told my story at the event we had last week, and I just like, was shaking and I just like ran off. I like ran off into like the bike. It's a bike store where they sell motorcycles. I ran and hid and was like trying to put myself together. And my husband comes and looks for me because he always looks for me. He's like, "You okay?" He's like, "Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath." And I'm like, I'm taking a deep breath. But I'm still like learning to speak it without emotionally being taken back to that moment. So, but ahí voy.
Well, thank you. Muchas gracias por ser tan vulnerable, por la confianza, porque también sabes that sharing your story helps others. Unfortunately, there is so many that can relate to that story, and the fact that they hear it from you then it gives them, the motivation they needed to look for help.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what does empoderate means to you?
Empoderate means to me, like I said, being able to realize that you can help yourself. You can empower yourself. You can reinvent yourself every day. And you can really change your life if you wake up and decide that enough is enough.
Thank you.
That's very great. And what do you like to do with your daughters?
Oh my God, we're taking on the hiking. That's been I have a daughter who's special needs and she's really overweight. And we're like on the whole Cami loses weight mission. So we've been hiking.
What do you do for fun? Sounds like you have the day.
Oh my God, I think if I ever have time and I'm like, okay, I want some time for myself, the things that I love to do is watch TV. I love watching TV.
Me too.
Especially like those series. Like I'm like, oh my God, I love these series. Especially like the Spanish series, like not the novelas, but the series that they have like on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Do you have like a favorite one?
Oh my God, I just watched one. I can't. Alicia. I think it was like Alicia something. It's this girl who has two husbands. She marries two guys, and then she like tries to go back and forth in the relationships. It's on Netflix.
That is so.
Se llama Alicia. So it starts.
Alicia.
Yeah, it starts off. It's like something I don't remember the front of it, but her name is Alicia, and she's married to two guys, two very good looking guys. And so the whole story is her trying to live her double life, and then she gets like pregnant. And her trying to figure out like who the husband is, and I'm just like, no.
Como una telenovela.
Yeah. I was a huge telenovela junkie, like Clase 406, Rebelde.
Mira, estás hablando de Rebelde.
I know, Amor Real. I was like,
sí la
no.
sabe.
I seriously, like, you know what it is? I love watching soap opera, especially very dramatic ones, because it gives me escape from my life. Like I forget like all the problems I have and all the stress I have, and I'm just like, no. Sitting there with my cafecito, that's the best. That's the best,
guilty
honestly.
pleasure.
Yeah, that's my pleasure for sure.
That's awesome. Paulina, ha sido un placer. Muchísimas gracias también por todo lo que haces, pero también el apoyo que le has dado incondicionalmente a las mujeres y a las niñas. En este caso, darle a través de tu organización unos vestidos para que vayan al prom y sentirse tan bellas como lo son por dentro y por fuera las estudiantes aquí en esta preparatoria, pero también en otros lugares. Muchas gracias por todo lo que haces, la energía que tienes para dar todo de ti y tu tiempo el día de hoy.
Gracias, muchas gracias por tenerme aquí.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys very, very soon.